Hello everyone, this is a photo reference that I took from a place called Abingdon in Oxford, and it's very lovely. We have a river running through some houses and trees, and I made a plein air painting from it, and I wanted to revise it and redo it. And the main thing that I want to change is that this tree here especially is slightly labored and a little bit too reliant on what I saw, rather than being a kind of a calligraphic expression. It's become a little bit too literal, and but this tree is very beautiful. So this is a very beautiful, feels very natural. It's just there. So you know, I want to repaint it with a more calligraphic kind of approach, and just to be a little bit more free, and yeah, not let myself get too bogged down by the reference that we're looking at. So I'm gonna begin this, and my goal is really to paint this in one stroke if I can. You know, just a few marks to suggest the shape, and I can just do it as a dark mark against this background. The point is the idea of a tree, not that it looks like that particular tree. So that's the real key difference. And I'll try not to look at my reference as much. I'll try to be a bit more free about the way I go about it, and calligraphic. And what we can do is we can begin with a meditation. I like to hold out my hands, and we can even place our hand on our chest, and we can surrender this process to the higher forces, be as they may. I surrender this process to you, this all-pervading energy that surrounds us. Verily, I am not the doer, you do everything. And just keeping my hand on my chest, I'm just taking a moment of silence. Okay. So I'll just begin with some lines, just to suggest some areas in there. This tree, these houses, this shape here, and I'm just being quite free. Free with it, connecting all my lines and things. Okay, just made a few lines, just a scatter of thoughts and ideas. And I'm going to begin with this goldish color, this weathered gold color. So just mixing a bit of cobalt blue, rose madder, and Aureolin yellow, or lemon yellow, a bit more yellow in there. Just a tiny bit of white and okay. There's this line here, and let's just bring it into there. So I'm trying to make my brushstrokes look like brushstrokes, so I don't want to lose that beautiful aspect within the painting. And I'll just take this slightly towards red. Here. And bring it back to this yellow, this weathered yellow. Okay. Bit of green, bit of sap green in here. Lovely. And here. A little bit of this red in there. Okay. Let's get a misty feeling. So I'm just mixing a bit of blue and red, a bit of purple and a bit of yellow in there. Just make it slightly more polish. And maybe even just lose that in there. I want to make it feel painterly. Okay. Let's let it flow. And this is really the first wash. And at this stage, if you want to, you can also go back to your meditation, bring your attention inside, just mixing a little bit of this in here, just to bring this further over, like so. Just bring our attention inside by what I do is I bring my hand and I just raise it up the middle of my body and just place it on top of my head and just slow down my breathing and just say inside, this mothering energy, which I like to describe it as, please. You are the doer. You take care of you are the journey and you are the destination. One key thing is with the calligraphic approach to painting is that you definitely you do less in the sense that you don't use too many brush marks. You just make fewer but more decisive decisions, and that's really key. That your decisions are that they're decisive, basically, and in that sense you don't need to make as many of them. And because you're not trying to necessarily depict what you're looking at, you're not trying to get all the tones of the tree and everything else, because you want to create the idea of the tree in the viewer's mind, you can do that. You can make a calligraphic mark, and that will suggest to the viewer that it's a tree, that it's a branch, and that's all that's needed. And I think that will bring the viewer closer to a poetic feeling of the place, rather than more naturalistic or representational or even illustrative. Let's see how we get on. Yeah. Okay. And when this also begins to dry, I can use my brush just to create a few of these marks in here, like so. But I'll do it when it dries a little bit more. And I'll put in some of this in here. Just suggest this line there. And as the painting progresses, I'm going to start to use even a smaller brush. This roof in there. Some lines like so. It's all nice and soft. and some lines in there. And let's create this tree up here. And just have it going up like so. And have it a little bit broken in there. And let's also have this area here. And maybe a very expressive brush just to suggest some of this in there. Like that is probably okay. Okay. And just a few expressive marks, like so. Just suggest some windows in there. Suggest some roofs in there. And I think now is the right time. There's a bit of a puddle forming there, so let's just move this down here, just to let that get lost. And to add some more expressive qualities, we can also just splash a bit of water. And that will also give us a sense of how the wash is doing. And that's quite beautiful, the way that that's just merged in there. A few lines, like so, slightly darker. And bring back this idea of the tree, just the reflection in there, like so. Even just a bit darker around it. And because it's quite wet, I'm not worried. I'm not too worried about it appearing too dark. It might appear dark now, but it's not going to be that dark because it will kind of just move around and then start to dry. I want to get this area in here, so I just preserve this white just there. Bring this in, like so. Oh, laboured. That says laboured. Okay. It is what it is. Just a wet brush mark in there. A bit of splashing. And let's get this tree branch, this tree in, just as a dark mark. I think it will be fine. Bit of contrast in there. I think that's quite interesting. It's very suggestive. Very suggestive, darker in there. And lighter as it goes up. Lovely. Just create a bit more difference in these branches going up in here. And also just suggest the edge in there. Keep it very suggestive. That's the key. And this area in here is dry. So let's add some dry marks in here to suggest branches coming through in there. Don't be descriptive, just be very suggestive with your marks. Okay, and maybe one mark like so. There. And as it continues to dry, just create some lines going across here. And also maybe a light line, just suggest the top there, just to define it slightly. We can add some more windows in later on, but for now, just that'll do. Just a few branches in there. Okay. And we can scratch out some shapes in there once it dries. Add a few darker areas like so, just to define the tree again. back like that. Okay. We can scratch out some lines and things later on. Okay. Connect it in there, like so. Some branches in there. And there are some shapes in there. So just kind of going some heavy outlines and things, just to suggest some shapes. Okay. And let's create some more suggestive lines going from one end to the other. Like so. Okay. Okay, I just want to reintroduce this shape of this. There's this shape of this shadowed thing in there. I just wanted to reintroduce that slightly. And there's one or two lines and dots and things in there. There's a lot of black. And maybe just do something like that, just to break it up a little bit. Make it a little bit interesting in there, and a few dots for these windows in here. Okay. And let's also just scratch out some shapes in there. Not too many. And one or two going up in there. And maybe just something across there. Like that. And a little bit of darkness just in here, just to kind of add a bit of variety there. Okay. So really kind of enjoying the expressive qualities of watercolor painting over the representational aspect of the photo. Okay, and I think that's really it. That's really all there is to do. Just maybe soften slightly in there, create a bit of a glow in there, and that is really the end of the painting. Let's dry that off and wait. One more little. A few little marks like so. Okay, let's dry that off and see what we've got. So let's take off the tape and see how it looks. There. If we wanted to, we could just add a slight wash just here, just to give the color of the paper in there, but also we don't have to. Just very subtle. That's all really. Thank you so much for watching, and if we compare it to the photo reference, well, you can see it is quite suggestive version of it with kind of free brush marks and things. And then we look at the plein air, and we can see that this does describe the scene a bit more, but this has some beautiful expressive qualities, which I think, yeah, it's very important when painting. And that is all really. I mean, maybe I think better leave it like that. All right, thank you so much for watching, and wishing you happy learning and joyful painting. Thank you again.